The explosion at Hannum Noodle House never happened. But it should have. Vanessa Reese stood in the center of 27 armed men, holding a modified surgical tourniquet that had been seconds away from triggering 16 remote charges hidden in the walls. The room smelled like fear and kimchi. Nobody moved except Derek Song, who was bleeding from a shoulder wound he hadn't acknowledged yet, his eyes locked on hers with an expression she couldn't read. "Put it down," Victor Lane said from across the room, Russian accent thick with contempt. "You're just the help. This doesn't concern you." Vanessa looked at the device in her hands. At the small LED screen showing 16 connected charges. At the disarm sequence, she'd have to enter blind because her hands were shaking too badly to see straight. "The help just saved your life," she said. "You're welcome, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Because the real story, the one that matters, started 4 months earlier with a termination letter and a woman who'd spent her entire life being told she was too much of everything. 4 months earlier. They fired her on a Tuesday. 7 years of service. 32 documented protocol violations she'd reported. 0 fucks given by administration. Effective immediately, Walsh said, not even looking at her. Temperament issues. Temperament. Code 4. A woman who won't stay quiet while we kill patients through negligence. Vanessa didn't argue. Just walked out, turned in her badge, and let Manhattan swallow her whole. Late September air, neon lights, the smell of grilled meat from Koreatown. She was wandering, broke, blacklisted, and somehow lighter than she'd felt in years. Her grandmother's voice in her head. "Baby, sometimes the universe gotta burn your bridges so you stop trying to go back." She found Hannum Noodle House by accident. Small storefront, 40 years old, with a handwritten sign in the window. Seeking staff. Experience unnecessary. Discretion required. That last word made her push the door open. Mrs. Hannum looked up from wiping tables. Studied Vanessa for 3 seconds. Nodded like she'd confirmed something. "You're the one," she said in Korean textured English. "Sit." Vanessa sat. Mrs. Hannum poured tea. "You carry death in your shoulders. You've held dying people and couldn't save them." Vanessa's throat tightened. "I'm a paramedic. Was. As of today. Because you told the truth, and they didn't want to hear it." Mrs. Hannum sipped her tea. "This restaurant isn't just a restaurant. Certain people come here to talk. To make agreements that keep the streets from burning. I need someone who won't run when it gets dangerous. You that person." Vanessa thought about her empty bank account, her blacklisted career, the fact that she had nothing left to lose. "What's the pay?" "Minimum wage plus tips. But the tips are very good." Mrs. Hannum smiled slightly. "And you'll learn things you can't learn anywhere else." "When do I start?" "Tomorrow. 5 a.m. Welcome to the place where dangerous men come to not kill each other. Try to keep them that way." Vanessa learned the rhythms fast. Early morning was quiet, Mrs. Hannum preparing ingredients, the methodical work of cooking that required no conversation. The first customers arrived around 6. Construction workers, delivery drivers, people who needed cheap, fast, good food before their shifts. Then, at 6:47 a.m. on her second day, Derek Song walked in. The temperature dropped. Conversations stopped. The construction worker at the counter suddenly needed to check his phone. The elderly couple in the corner booth went very still, chopsticks frozen halfway to their mouths. Derek Song was maybe 30, wearing a charcoal suit that fit too well to be off-rack. But it was the way he moved that marked him, controlled, economical, like someone who'd been trained to use their body as a weapon since childhood. No tattoos visible. No obvious gang insignia. Just an aura of concentrated danger that made everyone in the room reassess their exit strategies. He took a booth in the back corner. Didn't ask for a menu. Mrs. Hannum emerged from the kitchen, bowed, not subservient, but respectful in a way Vanessa hadn't seen her show anyone else. They spoke in rapid Korean. Then Mrs. Hannum looked at Vanessa. "Black coffee. Bring it to him. Be polite." Vanessa poured the coffee. Walked to his table. Set it down. "Anything else?" "Professional. Neutral." Derek Song looked up. His eyes were dark, analytical, cataloging her in seconds the way she'd been trained to triage patients, determining threat level, capability, whether intervention was needed. "You're new." Statement, not question. Second day. "Mrs. Hannum doesn't hire lightly. You must be special." Hypocrisie. Not sure that qualifies as special. The corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. "We'll see. What's your name?" "Vanessa." Yours, Derek. He didn't offer a last name. Welcome to the neighborhood, Vanessa. Word of advice: pay attention to everything. Take nothing for granted. This place has rules. Learn them fast. He went back to his phone, dismissing her. Vanessa walked away feeling like she'd just passed some kind of test she hadn't known she was taking. That night, she Googled Derek Koreatown, Manhattan, and found exactly nothing. Then she tried Derek Song organized crime, and found newspaper articles dating back 5 years. Money laundering, racketeering, connections to Korean criminal syndicates. But no convictions, no arrests. Just allegations that never stuck and a trail of legitimate businesses that seemed to generate improbable profits. She should have quit, should have recognized the warning signs and walked away. Instead, she showed up at 5 a.m. the next day and learned how to make jjajangmyeon from scratch. Derek Song came in at 6:47 a.m. exactly. Like clockwork, ordered black coffee, left a $50 bill for a $3 drink. The pattern held for 2 weeks. Then things got interesting. "I need you to watch someone," Derek said on Vanessa's 15th day. He'd never spoken to her beyond placing orders. Now he was looking at her with an intensity that made her spine tingle. "I serve coffee. You read people. I've been watching you. You know when tensions are rising before anyone else does. You position yourself near exits when certain customers come in. You're trained in emergency response, which means you're trained in threat assessment." He leaned back. "I checked your background. Former paramedic. Specialized in disaster response and forensic physiology. Fired for filing complaints about protocol violations." Vanessa's jaw tightened. "You investigated me. I investigate everyone who works in a place I consider safe territory. Don't take it personally." He pulled out a photograph, slid it across the table. "This man is meeting me here tomorrow at noon. I need to know if he's lying, if he's planning something, if I should be worried. You want me to be your human lie detector. I want you to use skills you already have. In exchange, I'll pay you $1,000 for an hour of work. And before you say no," he held up a hand, "this man is planning something that could get a lot of people killed. I'm trying to prevent that. I need someone with your training to tell me if he's negotiating in good faith or buying time to set up an ambush." Vanessa looked at the photograph. Asian man, 50s, expensive suit. "Who is he?" "Lee Min-ho, head of a Chinese-Korean syndicate that's been trying to move into my territory for 6 months. Tomorrow we negotiate boundaries. If he's lying about his intentions, people die. If he's telling the truth, we avoid a war. And you think I can tell which? I think you spent 7 years reading people in crisis situations. I think you know how to spot deception under pressure. I think you're wasted serving coffee when you could be preventing violence." Derek's eyes held hers. 1 hour, $1,000. You don't have to do anything except watch and tell me what you see." Vanessa should have said no. Should have recognized this as the moment she crossed from civilian observer to active participant. 2,000, she said. "And I want to know exactly what I'm walking into." Derek smiled. Genuine this time. "Deal." The meeting happened in a private room at the restaurant. Lee Min-ho brought 4 people. Derek brought 3. Vanessa sat in the corner with a tablet, pretending to take notes, actually cataloging every micro-expression, every tell, every physiological signal of stress or deception. 15 minutes in, she saw it. Lee's left eye twitched whenever Derek mentioned specific locations. His breathing changed when the conversation turned to timeline. His hands, folded on the table, tightened imperceptibly every time Derek said the word permanent. She leaned forward, whispered in Derek's ear. "He's lying. About the timeline especially. He doesn't want permanent boundaries. He wants temporary access while he builds something bigger. This is a stalling tactic." Derek's expression didn't change, but he adjusted his strategy immediately. Started asking different questions. Pushed harder on timelines. Lee started sweating. Within 20 minutes, Lee had walked out without an agreement. His people followed, radiating barely contained fury. When they were gone, Derek turned to Vanessa. "How did you know?" "Autonomic nervous system responses. Pupil dilation, breathing patterns, micro-expressions around the eyes. He was under significant stress every time you mentioned anything permanent. Either he's terrified of commitment," she paused, "or he's planning to violate whatever agreement you make. He was planning an ambush. 3 days after we signed. My people intercepted communications this morning, but I needed confirmation." Derek pulled out an envelope. "Cash. 2,000 as promised. And Vanessa? You just saved a lot of lives. Thank you. She took the money. Felt the weight of it. Felt the weight of what she'd just done. Used her medical training to help a criminal prevent a gang war. I'm not doing this regularly, she said. I'm not asking you to. But if I ever need you again, if there's a situation where your skills could prevent violence, I'd like to call. That acceptable? Vanessa thought about the termination letter, about how the system had punished her for trying to save lives through official channels, about how Derek Song had just paid her more for 1 hour than she'd make in 2 weeks serving coffee. Call if you need to. I'll decide case by case. Fair enough. That should have been the end of it. One consultation. One payday. Nothing more. But 2 weeks later, Derek called her at midnight. There's a situation. I need you. Now. The situation was a woman bleeding out in a warehouse in Queens. Gunshot wound to the abdomen. Derek's people had tried to stop the bleeding, but they were soldiers, not medics. By the time Vanessa arrived, cab across the bridge, cash payment, no questions asked, the woman had maybe 10 minutes left. You're a paramedic, Derek said. Not asking. Stating. Can you help her? Vanessa assessed the wound. Entrance wound lower left quadrant, probable hit to the intestines, no exit wound. The woman was conscious but in shock, skin pale and clammy, pulse thready and rapid. I need supplies. Now. Trauma kit, for fluids, surgical clamps, pressure bandages. She looked at Derek. And I need to know, do you want her to live? Yes. She's my cousin. She was in the wrong place. Wrong time. Not her fight. Then get me those supplies and call 911. Can't involve police. Then she dies. I can stabilize her for maybe 20 minutes. She needs surgery. Hospital. Blood transfusion. Vanessa met his eyes. I'm good, but I'm not a miracle worker. Choose. Derek pulled out his phone. Made a call in Korean. Spoke rapidly, urgently. Hung up. Doctor will be here in 8 minutes. Private. Discreet. Can you keep her alive that long? I can try. She worked fast. For line in, fluids running to maintain blood pressure. Direct pressure on the wound, using her body weight to compress the bleeding vessel. Talk to the woman. Stay with me. What's your name? Talk to me. Keeping her conscious because unconscious meant her body was giving up. The doctor arrived in 7 minutes. Older Korean man with surgeon's hands and a medical bag that looked like it had been packed for exactly this kind of situation. He took over smoothly, professionally, didn't ask questions Vanessa couldn't answer. She'll live, he said after 20 minutes of work that Vanessa assisted with, falling into the old rhythm of emergency medicine. But she needs to stay still for 3 days. No movement. Someone needs to monitor her. I'll do it, Vanessa said before she could stop herself. Derek looked at her. You don't have to. She's your family. You saved her by calling me. I'm not leaving until I know she's stable. She stayed for 4 days. Slept in shifts. Monitored vital signs. Changed dressings. Talked to Derek's cousin. Her name was G1. She was 23, studying architecture. Had been walking home from her boyfriend's apartment when a stray bullet from someone else's war had nearly killed her. Thank you, G1 said on day 3, when she was finally well enough to speak without pain. Derek says you didn't have to do this. Nobody has to do anything, Vanessa said, checking her 4-line. But I spent 7 years keeping people alive. Can't seem to stop. When G1 was stable enough to move, Derek drove Vanessa home. Handed her an envelope with $5,000. That's too much, Vanessa said. That's 4 days of round-the-clock care from someone who actually gave a shit whether she lived. Derek's hands were tight on the steering wheel. She's the only family I have left who's not involved in this life. The only one who got out clean. If she died because I couldn't get her to a hospital, he stopped. Swallowed hard. Thank you doesn't begin to cover it. Vanessa took the money. Knew she shouldn't, but also knew her bank account was down to $800 and rent was due in a week. Derek, what you do, the violence, the crime, I can't be part of that. But if someone needs medical help and you can't go through normal channels, call me. That's it. That's all I can offer. He nodded. That's all I'm asking. But they both knew she was already more involved than either of them wanted to admit. It happened on a Tuesday in late November. Vanessa was closing the restaurant. Mrs. Hannum had left early for her sister's birthday when 4 men walked in. Not regulars. Not respectful. Wrong kind of energy. Coffee, the leader said. White 30s, neck tattoos that screamed prison time. And information. We hear you work for Derek Song. Vanessa poured coffee with steady hands. I work for Mrs. Hannum. I serve food. Don't fuck with us. He grabbed her wrist hard enough to hurt. We know you're his pet medic. His little spy. You're going to tell us about his security, his locations, his weaknesses. Every alarm Vanessa had developed over 7 years of dealing with violent, unstable patients in crisis situations activated. This man was high on something. Pupils dilated, jaw clenched, aggression barely controlled. The 3 men with him were spreading out, blocking exits, boxing her in. Let go, she said. Calm. Professional. I don't know anything. I serve coffee. He squeezed harder. Twisted. Pain shot up her arm. Last chance. Talk or we make you talk. Vanessa reached into her apron pocket. Found her modified trauma kit. She'd been carrying it since G1, just in case. Her fingers closed around a nerve stimulator, repurposed from medical equipment to something more versatile. 3 seconds, she said quietly. Then I defend myself. He laughed. You threatening me, bitch? She pressed the nerve stimulator to his ulnar nerve at the wrist. Delivered a controlled pulse. His hand spasmed open, releasing her. Before he could react, she struck the vagus nerve at his neck with her other hand. Hard, precise, exactly the right amount of force to trigger a vasovagal response without causing permanent damage. He dropped. Not unconscious, but disoriented, dizzy, unable to stand as his blood pressure plummeted. The other 3 moved. Vanessa was faster. First man got a pressure point strike to the brachial plexus. Arm went dead. Second man got a nerve stimulator application to his sciatic nerve, leg buckled. Third man actually pulled a gun before Derek's song came through the door like violence personified. What happened next took 12 seconds. Derek disabled all 3 men with strikes so precise Vanessa barely saw them happen. Then he had a gun out, pointed at the leader who was just recovering from Vanessa's attack. You okay? Derek asked her without taking his eyes off the threat. I'm fine. They wanted information about you. I know. They're Lane's people. Victor Lane. Russian-Ukrainian syndicate moving into my territory. He pulled out his phone, made a call, and suddenly the restaurant was full of Derek's people removing the 4 attackers like they were garbage bags. When it was just Derek and Vanessa, he looked at her with new eyes. Where did you learn that? Disaster medicine. Sometimes patients fight you when they're in shock. You need to be able to subdue them without causing additional harm. I know how to temporarily disable most major muscle groups. She held up the nerve stimulator. This is usually for pain management, but it works for other things. You weaponized medical equipment. I used the tools I had to protect myself. There's a difference. Derek studied her for a long moment. They'll come back. Not those 4, they're done. But Lane will send more people. Better people. You're a target now because you're connected to me. Then I'll handle it. Vanessa, these aren't drunk patients or people in shock. These are trained killers who won't stop until they get what they want. He moved closer. I can protect you, but you have to let me. How? Move into my building. I have secure apartments. Full security. Or, he hesitated. Stay with me. My place. Until this is over. That's inappropriate. So is letting someone I care about get killed because they helped me. He caught himself. Adjusted. Someone who's proven to be a valuable consultant. But Vanessa had seen his face when he said care about. Had heard the emotion he tried to hide. One condition, she said. This is temporary. Protective custody. Nothing more. Agreed. But they both knew that was already a lie. Derek's apartment occupied the entire 42nd floor of a building in Midtown. The elevator required a keycard and biometric scan just to access his floor. When the doors opened, Vanessa stepped into a space that looked like it had been designed by someone who valued function over comfort. Clean lines, minimal furniture, windows that she suspected were bulletproof. Guest room is down that hall, Derek said, setting down her overnight bag. Bathroom's private. Kitchen is fully stocked. The fridge has actual food, not just takeout containers. Mrs. Hannum made me promise to feed you properly. She knows I'm here? She insisted. Said if I was going to put you in danger, I'd better keep you alive. He pulled out his phone, showed her a screen. Security system. These cameras cover all approaches to the building, the elevator, the hallway. These panic buttons, he pointed to discrete panels on the walls. Hit any of them, and my people are here in under 2 minutes. Vanessa walked to the windows. Manhattan spread out below, lights stretching to the horizon. How long do you think this will last? Lane's making his move soon. Could be days. Could be weeks. Derek came to stand beside her, close enough that she could feel the heat from his body. But I won't let him hurt you. I can take care of myself. I know. I watched you drop 4 men without breaking a sweat. But Vanessa, he turned to face her, you shouldn't have to. This is my world. My violence. You got dragged into it because I was selfish enough to want you near me. You needed a consultant. I needed an excuse to keep seeing you. The confession came out rough, like he hadn't meant to say it. From that second day, when you poured my coffee and looked at me like I was just another customer, like I wasn't someone to fear or worship or use, I wanted more of that. More of you. Vanessa's heart was pounding. Derek, I know. It's inappropriate. You work for Mrs. Hannum. You've made it clear you're not interested in being part of this life. And I respect that. But I need you to know, what I feel for you goes way beyond professional appreciation. He stepped back, creating distance. You don't have to respond. I just needed to say it once. He walked away before she could answer. Left her standing at the window with her pulse racing and her mind spinning. That night, Vanessa lay in the guest room and couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about Derek's face when he'd confessed. About how he'd respected her boundaries, even while admitting he wanted to cross them. About how different that was from every other man who'd wanted something from her. Men who'd called her intimidating when she wouldn't shrink, who'd labeled her difficult when she wouldn't comply, who'd left when she wouldn't be less than she was. Derek Song looked at her intensity and wanted more of it. Around 2 a.m., she got up. Found him in the kitchen, drinking coffee and reading something on his tablet. Can't sleep, he asked without looking up. Need to ask you something. She sat across from him. That woman you had me save. G1, you said she was the only family you had left who got out clean. What did you mean? Derek was quiet for a long moment. Then he set down the tablet. My father built this organization. Brought it from Korea, established it here. Raised me to take over. My mother died when I was 8. My brother died when I was 16, killed by a rival gang. G1's mother was my aunt. She got her daughter out before the life could touch her. Sent her to boarding school, then college. Kept her separate. And you wanted out. I wanted options. I got degrees in business and economics. Thought maybe I could transition everything legitimate. Turn the family businesses into actual businesses. He laughed bitterly. Turns out you can't just walk away from this world. It follows you. And people who try to leave end up dead. So you stayed. I stayed. I made it less violent where I could. I stopped the trafficking operations, the drugs that were killing kids. I keep territories stable so families don't get caught in crossfire. But I'm still a criminal, Vanessa. Still dangerous. Still someone you should stay far away from. And yet here I am. Here you are. His eyes found hers in the dim kitchen light. Why? Vanessa thought about her termination letter. About the system that punished her for caring. About how Derek had paid her more for one consultation than she'd made in a month serving coffee. But more than that, about how he'd looked at her medical skills and seen value instead of threat. How he'd respected her boundaries. How he'd confessed his feelings and then walked away. Because I'm tired of being told I'm too much, she said finally. Too intense. Too opinionated. Too unwilling to accept broken systems. You look at all that and see assets instead of problems. That's because they are assets. The world is run by people who are too comfortable with compromise. You refuse to compromise. That's rare. It's valuable. He stopped. Swallowed. It's extraordinary. The air between them felt charged. Electric. Derek, Vanessa said quietly. I need you to understand something. I'm not afraid of your world. I'm afraid of losing myself in it. Of becoming someone who justifies violence because it's convenient. Of crossing lines I can't uncross. I would never ask you to cross those lines. But proximity to you means crossing them anyway. Doesn't it? The woman I saved, G1, she was shot because of gang violence. I stabilized her without calling authorities. That makes me complicit. The men I fought off tonight, your people disappeared them. I didn't ask where they went. That makes me complicit. She held his gaze. So don't tell me you'd never ask me to cross lines. I'm already across them. The question is how much further I'm willing to go. Derek stood, crossed to her side of the table, knelt down so they were eye level. Then let me make you a promise. I will never ask you to do something that violates who you are. If saving someone's life violates your ethics, it doesn't, and we both know it, then I won't call you. If gathering intelligence to prevent violence violates your ethics, it doesn't, then I won't ask. But if I ever ask you to do something that actually crosses your lines, you say no. And I accept it. No pressure. No consequences. Deal. Vanessa looked at him. At this dangerous man kneeling before her, making promises she wasn't sure he could keep, and realized she wanted him to try. Deal, she said. He stood, started to walk away. Vanessa caught his hand. Derek, what you said earlier, about wanting more of me. She stopped. Started again. I feel it too. Have been feeling it for weeks. But I don't know how to do this. How to want someone whose world is so different from anything I've known. Then we figure it out together. He squeezed her hand gently. No expectations. No pressure. Just see where this goes. Okay. Yes. Let's see. He smiled. Real and warm and devastating. Then he let go of her hand and stepped back. Get some sleep. Tomorrow I have a meeting with some business partners. Legitimate ones. I'd like you there, just as a consultant. Help me read if they're trying to cheat me. That's actual business consulting. Which is what I've been trying to hire you for since you proved you could read people better than anyone I've met. You interested in a career change? Vanessa thought about it. About using her skills in threat assessment and crisis management in a completely different context. About having a job that paid well and didn't require her to stay silent about corruption. Let's see how the meeting goes. Fair enough. The meeting was at a financial services firm in the financial district. Derek's legitimate businesses needed accounting oversight, and he was interviewing firms. Vanessa sat beside him, observing. The three accountants were good, professional, competent, but the lead partner, a man named Richardson, had tells that made Vanessa's instincts activate. The way he emphasized certain services, the way he glossed over fee structures, the way his eyes flickered when Derek mentioned overseas accounts. After the meeting in the car, Derek asked, "Well, the lead partner is planning to overcharge you by at least 30%, possibly setting you up for some kind of embezzlement scheme. The other two seemed legitimate, but he's the problem. How do you know? Micro-expressions when discussing fees. Deflection when you ask direct questions. Classic signs of someone planning deception." She pulled out her phone, made notes. "You want my recommendation? Go with the smaller firm you're meeting this afternoon. They'll be more honest because they need your business more." Derek smiled. "See, this is exactly why I need you. You just saved me millions." The afternoon meeting went better. The firm was smaller, hungrier, and, according to Vanessa's assessment, genuinely interested in helping Derek legitimize his operations. "They're clean," she told him afterward. "Honest. They see you as a long-term client, not a mark. Then they get the contract." Derek looked at her. "And you get a permanent consulting position. $50,000 to start. Review all my business deals. Tell me who's lying. Help me transition the organization away from criminal operations and toward legitimate business." Interested. $50,000. More than she'd made as a paramedic. For using skills she already had. "Yes, but I have conditions. I won't help with anything explicitly criminal. No drug deals. No money laundering. No violence. Just legitimate business consulting." Understood. Understood. "And Vanessa? Thank you for taking a chance on me. On this." They had dinner that night at a small restaurant in Queens. Not fancy. Just good Korean food and conversation that flowed easier than it should have between a former paramedic and a crime lord trying to go straight. "Tell me about your family," Derek said over bibimbap. Vanessa talked about her grandmother, the root worker who'd taught her to trust her instincts. About her two older brothers who'd taught her to fight. About her mother who'd pushed her into medicine because it was stable, respectable, safe. "And now you're consulting for a criminal organization," Derek said with a slight smile. "Your mother must be thrilled." "My mother doesn't know. She thinks I'm working restaurant management." Vanessa smiled back. "Some truths are harder to explain than others." "What about relationships? The file said you were single." "Broke up with my ex about 6 months before I got fired. He said I was too intense. Said I needed to learn to relax, to not care so much about everything. He wanted me smaller so he could feel bigger." She met Derek's eyes. "I'm done with men who need me diminished to feel adequate." "Good. You shouldn't have to shrink for anyone." He paused. "For the record, your intensity is one of my favorite things about you." Heat flooded through Vanessa. "Careful. Compliments like that might make me think you're flirting." "I am flirting. Have been since you told that first guy to let go in 3 seconds." Watching you count down while staying completely calm was—" He stopped. Smiled. "Let's just say I found it attractive. You find competence attractive. I find you attractive. The competence is just part of the whole package." He reached across the table, took her hand. "Is this okay? Too fast?" "It's okay." She squeezed his hand. "Scary but okay." They finished dinner. Derek drove her back to his apartment. At the door to the guest room, he stopped. "Thank you for today. For the meeting. For dinner. For trusting me enough to try this. Thank you for seeing me. Really seeing me." He cupped her face gently. "Can I kiss you?" "Yes." The kiss was soft. Careful. Like he was afraid she'd break or run. Vanessa leaned into it, one hand on his chest, feeling his heartbeat racing fast as hers. When they pulled apart, he was smiling. "Good night, Vanessa." "Good night, Derek." She went to bed with her lips still tingling and her mind racing. Fell asleep thinking about dangerous men and second chances, and how sometimes the universe burned your bridges for a reason. 3 days later, Victor Lane made his move. Vanessa was at the restaurant, doing her regular shift. Derek had insisted she maintain her cover there when her phone buzzed. Text from Derek, "Meeting at the restaurant tonight. 8 p.m. Victor Lane. Need you there." She showed the message to Mrs. Hannum. The older woman's face went hard. "He's bringing the war here. To neutral ground." Derek wouldn't. Not Derek. Victor. "He's forcing Derek to meet here because he knows Derek respects my rules. Thinks it gives him advantage." Mrs. Hannum looked at Vanessa. "You need to be very careful tonight. Very observant. Victor Lane doesn't respect rules. Doesn't respect neutrality. He'll try something. Should I tell Derek not to come?" "Derek knows the risk. He's coming anyway because refusing would show weakness. But you—" Mrs. Hannum gripped Vanessa's arm. "You watch everything. You see the danger before it happens. That's your gift. Use it." At 7:45 p.m., Derek arrived with 6 people. Security detail. They positioned themselves carefully, covering exits and sight lines. At 8 p.m., Victor Lane arrived with 8 people. Too many. Violation of protocol already. Mrs. Hannum stepped forward. "Mr. Lane, 6 people maximum. That is the rule." Victor smiled. "Cold. I need adequate protection in hostile territory. This is neutral territory. And the rule is 6. Mrs. Hannum didn't back down. "Send 2 away or leave." For a moment, Vanessa thought Victor would refuse. Then he gestured and 2 of his people left. But something about the way they left, reluctant, looking back, made Vanessa's spine tingle. They sat, Victor and Derek at the main table, security at separate tables nearby. Vanessa in her usual corner, tablet out, watching. The conversation started civil. Territorial negotiations. Victor wanted access to 3 neighborhoods currently under Derek's control. Wanted to split profits on certain operations. Wanted respect for his organization's expansion. Derek listened, responded calmly. But Vanessa could see the tension in his shoulders. 15 minutes in, she saw it. One of Victor's men, young, nervous, kept touching his jacket, was sweating despite the cool restaurant. His right hand kept moving to his pocket. He wasn't listening to the conversation. He was counting, watching the clock. Vanessa's training kicked in. That was countdown behavior. Someone waiting for a specific time. Someone holding a trigger. She stood slowly. Moved toward Derek like she was refilling water. Leaned down. The young one at Victor's table. Dark jacket. He's counting down to something. His hand is in his pocket. Probably a trigger. She kept her voice barely audible. "I think there are explosives planted. I think this is an ambush." Derek's eyes flicked to the young man. Then to Victor, who was smiling too much. Too confident. "How long?" Derek whispered. "Maybe 2 minutes based on his pattern." Derek stood abruptly. "Meeting's over. There's a problem." Victor laughed. "What problem?" "We're just talking. The problem where you brought explosives into neutral ground." Derek's gun was out. So were his people's guns. "You violated Mrs. Hannum's space. Violated the rules that keep this neighborhood from burning." "Prove it," Victor said. Still smiling. The young man's hand came out of his pocket, holding a detonator. Vanessa moved on instinct. Crossed the distance before anyone could react. Before the young man could press the button, she had her nerve stimulator against his neck, the strongest setting, the one that could temporarily disable the vagus nerve and cause immediate unconsciousness. He dropped. The detonator fell. She caught it. The room exploded into motion. Guns out. Shouting. Vanessa stood in the center holding the detonator, thumb carefully not pressing any buttons. "Everyone stays calm," she said loudly, her disaster response voice, the one she'd used to command scenes with dozens of casualties. "I have the trigger. Nobody moves until we figure out what this is connected to." Derek was beside her instantly. "Give it to me." "No. I know explosives. Had training in disaster scenarios." She looked at the device. Simple design. Single button. LED showing 16 connected charges. "There are 16 devices planted somewhere in or around this building. Anyone know where?" Silence. Then Mrs. Hannum spoke from behind the counter. "I found one. Behind the photograph of my husband. When I closed this afternoon." "You didn't call the police?" Derek asked. "I called you. You said you'd handle it." She looked at Victor. "I trusted Derek to keep my restaurant safe. But you brought death to my doorstep." "Prove it was me," Victor said again. But his confidence was cracking. Vanessa looked at the detonator. At the disarm sequence. It needed a code. She didn't have the code. "We need a bomb squad," she said. "No police," Victor and Derek said simultaneously. "Then we need to evacuate. Get everyone out. Clear 3 blocks in every direction. This much explosive," she calculated quickly based on the number of charges, "could take down this building and damage everything adjacent." "I can disarm it," Derek said. "You know explosives?" "Military training. Before I took over the family business." He looked at her. "But I need you to trust me." Vanessa looked at this man she'd known for 3 months. This dangerous man who'd never lied to her. Who'd kept every promise. "Okay." She handed him the detonator. "But if you die, I'm killing you." He smiled. "Deal." What happened next took 7 minutes that felt like hours. Derek studied the detonator with the focus of someone who'd done this before. His hands were steady. Vanessa's weren't. "Victor," Derek said without looking up, "you have one chance to give me the disarm code. Or when I defuse this, I'm coming for you with everything I have." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Wrong answer." Derek pulled out a multi-tool. Started carefully opening the detonator casing. "Vanessa, you should leave. Get everyone out." "I'm staying. If this goes wrong, then we both go." "I'm not leaving you." She looked at Mrs. Hannum. "Get everyone else out. 3-block radius. Now." Mrs. Hannum didn't argue. Started ushering people toward the exits. Victor's people. Derek's people. Customers who'd been trapped when this started. Within 2 minutes, the restaurant was empty except for Derek, Vanessa, and Victor, who'd been zip-tied to a chair by Derek's security team before they evacuated. "You're insane," Victor said. "Both of you. Just run." "Can't run," Derek said, still working on the detonator. "If this goes off, it kills everyone in 3 blocks. Families. Children. People who have nothing to do with our war." He looked up at Victor. "That's the difference between us. I don't kill civilians to make a point." Vanessa watched Derek's hands. Watched him trace wires with careful precision. He found something, cursed softly in Korean. "What?" she asked. "It's on a timer. Not just the button. Backup system. We have." He checked his watch. 4 minutes. "Can you disarm it?" "Maybe. If I had the code. Without it, I have to manually disconnect 16 charges. Which means finding all 16. He looked at her. "Or I can disarm the timer and trigger the manual detonation sequence, which gives us control. But it's risky." "How risky?" 50-50. "Could work. Could blow us up." Vanessa's medical training kicked in. 50-50 odds on a procedure meant you looked for alternatives. "What if we contain the blast? Channel it upward instead of outward?" Derek stared at her. "That could work. If we move the charges. Stack them. Open the roof access." His mind was racing now. "We'd need to find all 16. Move them. Fast. Then let's move." They split up. Derek went left. Vanessa went right. She found 3 charges in the first 30 seconds, behind picture frames, under tables, in air vents. All connected wirelessly to the detonator. She carried them carefully to the center of the restaurant, where Derek was already stacking charges in a tight configuration. 2 minutes left. They found 13 charges total. 3 were missing. "Could be outside," Derek said. "Could be in the kitchen." Vanessa ran to the kitchen. Found one in the walk-in freezer. Brought it back. 90 seconds. Derek was on his phone, shouting orders in Korean. "I've got people checking the perimeter. Looking for the last 2. Vanessa looked at the detonator. At the LED display. at the connected charges showing 14/16. Derek, what if the last two are on people? What if Victor's people who left early have them? Derek's face went pale. He looked at Victor. Where are they? The two who left. Where did you send them? Victor smiled. Said nothing. Where? Derek had his gun out, pressed against Victor's temple. Why would I tell you? You're going to kill me anyway. I might kill you. They will definitely kill innocent people if those charges go off in a crowded area. Derek's voice was ice. Last chance. Where? 60 seconds. Victor's smile faded. Some calculation happened behind his eyes. Fear, maybe. Or a realization that this had gone too far. Subway station. 2 blocks east. They're supposed to trigger them when the train arrives. Maximum casualties. Derek was already moving. Phone out. Calling someone. Penn Station subway entrance. 2 blocks east. 2 armed men with explosives. Stop them. Now. He looked at Vanessa. I have to go. Have to stop them. No. You have to finish this. She grabbed the detonator from his hands. I'll stop them. Vanessa. I was a paramedic. I ran toward disasters, not away from them. And I'm faster than you. She was already moving toward the door. Disarm this. Save the neighborhood. I'll handle the subway. She ran before he could argue. 2 blocks in 45 seconds. Her lungs burned. She hit the subway entrance and saw them immediately. 2 of Victor's men, standing near the platform edge, hands in their jackets. A train was approaching. The platform was crowded. Evening commuters. Families. Kids. Vanessa didn't slow down. Didn't think. Just moved. She hit the first man with a full-body tackle, driving him away from the platform edge. His hand came out of his jacket, holding a trigger identical to the one Derek was disarming. She used her nerve stimulator on his wrist. His hand spasmed. The trigger fell. The second man saw her. Pressed his button. Nothing happened. Derek had disarmed the system. Cut the connection. But the man didn't know that. He kept pressing the button, confusion, and then panic crossing his face. Transit police were moving toward them now, drawn by the commotion. Vanessa held up her hands, backing away from the 2 men. These men have explosives, she said loudly. Everyone needs to evacuate. Now. The platform erupted into controlled chaos. Transit police moving people toward exits. More officers arriving. The 2 men tried to run, but Vanessa had already given descriptions, and Derek's people materialized from the crowd. Apparently he'd sent backup without telling her. Her phone rang. Derek. I got them, she said before he could speak. They tried to trigger, but nothing happened. You disarmed it. 17 seconds to spare. His voice was shaking. Relief or adrenaline or both. You okay? I'm okay. Transit police have the situation. Your people are here. I think it's over. Not yet. Get back here. Carefully. Don't trust anyone. She made it back to the restaurant to find Derek standing in the street, watching firefighters and bomb squad. Someone had finally called them, carefully removing the stacked charges. Mrs. Hannum stood nearby, arms crossed, expression thunderous. Victor Lane was still inside, zip-tied and surrounded by police who'd finally been allowed on scene. Derek pulled Vanessa into his arms the moment he saw her. Held her tight enough that she could feel him shaking. Don't ever do that again, he said into her hair. Do what? Save a platform full of people. Run toward danger when I'm trying to protect you. Derek, I spent 7 years running toward danger. It's what I do. She pulled back to look at him. And you're one to talk. You stayed behind to disarm a bomb. That's different. It's exactly the same. We both made the choice to protect people. She touched his face. That's who we are. Both of us. He kissed her then, hard and desperate and relieved. When they pulled apart, Mrs. Hannum was standing next to them. My restaurant, she said flatly, will be completely repaired, Derek said immediately. Better than before. New equipment. New furniture. Whatever you want. I want my neutral ground restored. I want guarantees this never happens again. I want, she looked between them. I want you two to figure out what you're doing. Because this, she gestured at the bomb squad, the police, the chaos. This is what happens when you try to keep parts of your life separate. You're together or you're not. Decide. She walked away before either could respond. Vanessa looked at Derek. She's not wrong. No, she's not. He took her hands. I'm done with half measures. With keeping you at arm's length for your safety. You've proven tonight that you're capable of making your own choices about danger. So here's what I'm offering: full partnership. Help me transition the organization legitimate. Use your skills in threat assessment. Help me build something good from what my father built. And, he paused, be with me. Not as a consultant. Not as someone I'm protecting. As an equal. As my partner in everything. That's a lot to offer after 3 months. I've known what I wanted since month 1. Took me this long to be brave enough to ask. His eyes held hers. What do you say? Vanessa thought about the termination letter. About being called too intense, too much, too everything. About how Derek had looked at all of that and wanted more. I say yes. But on my terms. I help you go legitimate. I don't touch anything criminal. I use my skills to prevent violence, not enable it. And if you ever cross lines I can't accept, I walk. No questions. No guilt. Deal. Deal. He pulled her close again. Thank you. For trusting me. For taking the biggest risk of your life on someone like me. Someone like you saved a neighborhood tonight. Disarmed a bomb with 17 seconds left. Sent people to back me up even though you didn't think I needed it. She smiled. I think I'm taking a risk on exactly the right person. They stood there in the street, surrounded by emergency vehicles and police and bomb squad technicians, and kissed like they were the only 2 people in the world. 6 months later, the Second Chance Initiative opened on a warm spring morning. Community center, medical clinic, job training, addiction counseling, all funded by Derek Song's legitimate business empire, which had grown exponentially once Vanessa started consulting on deals and preventing the scams that had been bleeding his operations for years. Vanessa ran the medical clinic. Full staff, state-of-the-art equipment, free services for anyone who needed them. It was everything her old job should have been but wasn't. Medicine focused on healing people instead of protecting institutions. Derek arrived at the opening ceremony in a suit, no longer trying to hide the dragon tattoo. It had become his trademark in the business world. The reformed crime lord who'd turned his empire legitimate and now donated millions to community programs. Ready? He asked, finding Vanessa in her new office. Ready. She took his hand. They walked out to the gathered crowd. Community members, business leaders, politicians who'd been skeptical 6 months ago but now competed for photo opportunities with the man who'd transformed a neighborhood. Mrs. Hannum was there, front row, beaming with pride. Derek spoke first. About second chances. About how his father had built an empire on violence, but he was building something different. About how one person, he looked at Vanessa, could change everything if you were brave enough to listen. Then Vanessa spoke. About healthcare as a right, not a privilege. About how systems fail when good people stay silent. About how she'd been fired for speaking up and now had a chance to build something better. After the speeches, after the ribbon cutting, after the press photographs, Derek pulled Vanessa aside. There's one more thing. He dropped to one knee in front of the whole crowd. Vanessa's breath caught. 6 months ago, you took a chance on me. Helped me become someone better. Built this. He gestured at the community center. Built us. And I want to build more. I want forever. He pulled out a ring. Simple diamond. Elegant. Vanessa Reese, will you marry me? The crowd had gone silent. Waiting. Vanessa looked at this man who'd seen her intensity and called it extraordinary. Who'd respected her boundaries while confessing he wanted more. Who'd spent 6 months proving he could change. Yes, she said. But I have conditions. He smiled. Of course you do. If you ever go back to the criminal world, if you cross the lines we agreed on, I walk. No matter how much I love you. Agreed. And you have to promise me we keep building this. Keep making the neighborhood better. Keep proving that people can change. I promise. What else? That's it. Those are my only conditions. That's easy. He stood, slipped the ring on her finger, and kissed her while the crowd erupted in applause. Mrs. Hannum appeared beside them, smiling. Took you long enough. I was beginning to think I'd have to lock you in the restaurant freezer until you figured it out. They laughed. The 3 of them, the former paramedic, the reformed crime lord, and the restaurant owner who'd brought them together. Thank you, Vanessa said to Mrs. Hannum, for hiring me, for seeing something in me when I couldn't see it myself. I saw someone who walked like they carried death. Someone who needed to remember how to carry life instead. Mrs. Hannum squeezed her hand. You both did. And look what you built. That night, back in Derek's apartment, their apartment now, they stood at the windows looking out over Manhattan. Think we can actually make this work? Vanessa asked. Former paramedic and reformed crime lord? We already are making it work. The community center. Your clinic. My businesses. This. He pulled her close. We're proof that people can change. That it's never too late to choose something better. Even when the universe has to burn all your bridges to make you choose it. Especially then. He kissed her forehead. I love you. Your intensity. Your refusal to accept broken systems. Your inability to walk away from people who need help. All of it. I love you too. Your terrible coffee choices. Your need to intimidate people in business meetings. Your commitment to being better than your father. She smiled. All of it. They stood there as the city sparkled below. Two people who'd found each other in a restaurant and built something impossible. The next morning, Vanessa woke to the smell of burning. Found Derek in the kitchen, attempting breakfast again. You're burning the pancakes. I'm creating culinary art. He flipped one. It was definitely burned. That's art. Modern art. Abstract. He grinned. Okay, I'm burning them. But I'm trying. That's all I ask. Keep trying. They ate burned pancakes and drank terrible coffee and made plans for the community center's expansion. For the wedding they'd have at Mrs. Hannum's restaurant, because where else would they get married? For the life they were building together. And when Derek's phone rang with a business question, Vanessa listened to how he handled it. Firmly but fairly, no threats, just good negotiation, and felt proud of who they'd both become. Later that week, Vanessa got a letter. From her old supervisor, Dr. Sarah Kim. Vanessa, I saw the article about the community center. About your clinic. I'm so proud of you. You did what I couldn't, left the system, and built something better. If you ever need staff, I'm interested in applying. Ready to do medicine the right way. Sarah. Vanessa showed the letter to Derek. My old mentor wants to join the clinic. You want to hire her? Yes. She was the only one who supported me when I filed those complaints. She's good. She's ethical. She'd be perfect. Then hire her. It's your clinic. You run it however you want. Our clinic. This is a partnership, remember? Right. Our clinic. He kissed her. I keep forgetting I get to share this with you. Better get used to it. You're stuck with me now. Best decision I ever made. Offering you that first consulting job. Best decision I ever made was saying yes. They smiled at each other, these two unlikely partners who'd found each other in chaos and built something beautiful. And in Koreatown, Mrs. Hannum prepared for the evening rush, knowing that her restaurant had done what it was meant to do, brought together two people who needed each other, even if they hadn't known it yet. The universe had burned Vanessa's bridges. Derek had offered her new ones. Together, they were building something neither could have created alone. And that, Mrs. Hannum thought as she stirred her broth, was exactly how love was supposed to work.